Thank you so much, studio audience, for joining us. We're so excited. I'm Dr. Randall Hall Walker, the host of this show, and I have my co-host, my lovely wife, Birdella Hall Walker, with me on the set today. And we're excited because we've gotten some phone calls that individuals are calling in, and we're thankful for you. If you have a question on marriage, see that number that's on your screen right there? Dial that number. That number is 704-322-8010, and operators are standing by, and they'll take your question, and we'll answer your question for you on the set. But we're excited about being on television and coming to you and sharing with you our life journey to greatness broadcast. Me and my lovely wife, we've been married over 30 years, and I want you to know that journey to greatness wasn't an easy journey, but through the grace of God, we are still married and happily married and enjoying one another. But there's some secrets and there's some tools that you have to use. And I'm here to tell you today, you can't lose with the stuff we use. Today we're going to be dealing with marriage, and we're just really excited about what God is doing in these last days. And we know that the enemy is trying to destroy marriages. I am just so concerned about America, how the enemy has crippled the home and have taken the father away from the home, and children are not being raised properly, and they're growing up. And what's ultimately happening is what's ultimately going on today out of homes as they go to our public school system. The school system is actually manufacturing prisoners. That's a scary thing. That's a scary thing when we know that society is not producing people of greatness, people to become extraordinary, people to become mighty, people to grow up and live the American dream and begin to create what's possible for their life and have a vision for what they're up to. So often it's a survival mode. But we're going to share with you our story. Again, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. Life for me wasn't the easiest. But I tell you what, Motown had it going on back in the 60s. I had a great, extraordinary life growing up. But then after I got 18 years old, I just wanted to see what life was all about. And boy, was that a rocky road for me, going out there thinking I knew something. One of the worst things that the government could have done, or voting could have done, is legalize drinking at 18 years old. Oh my God, that was the worst thing that could have happened. I tell you what, I thought I was grown. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was God's gift to America. But ultimately, I ended up in defeat. But God had a different plan, and I'm so grateful for where I'm at today and the years of walking with God and knowing Him and having an intimate relationship with Him. But I'll do all the talking, but I have my co-host here, Birdella Hall Walker, who grew up in Chicago. Oh, Al Capone City. Boy, I'm telling you, Motown, we had it going on for building cars, and of course Motown sound came out of there. But Chicago, when I visited Chicago, I always was thinking Al Capone was around the corner. I'm telling you. But anyway, it's an extraordinary city. I had the privilege of working there as a youth pastor back in the day before I got married. That's how I ended up meeting this precious, awesome, extraordinary woman that is my wife today. I was in Chicago for a visit to a church called West Side Assembly of God. Pastor Joseph Bell was the pastor. He had invited me to come. I was traveling as a full-time evangelist, sharing my story to the world. I'm telling you what, God had done some awesome, extraordinary things in my heart, delivered me and set me free. I was on fire. I was excited, ignited, enthused, and infused because I had been anointed and appointed by God. And I was going all over America sharing my story of the goodness of God. And this church in Chicago invited me. And so when I had one of my assistants with me at the time, and we came into the church, and lo and behold, this beautiful young lady was standing there. And boy, I could kind of look at her and tell she wasn't married. You know, married women have a certain look, and single women have a certain look. And I got the look I was looking for. Hey. And so, making a long story longer, or making a short, anyway, God just put us together. It was just amazing at what God had done for us. And as a single man on the road, and not bad looking at the time, and all the women were after me. But And so I needed to settle down. I needed a wife. I began to seek the Lord because, I can't be out there, as a full-time evangelist, loving the Lord and then feeling at times failing God. You don't know how that feels to know that you have, as a man of God, to fail God. And you're knowing you need that spouse. You need that one to encourage in those lonely hours when you're in the hotel room all by yourself and feeling lonely. Oh, sir, you know what I'm talking about. Don't act like you have been religious all your life and you've never had some struggles. Come on now. You know what I'm talking about. I'm just transparent because I know this. Authenticity is so powerful. Yes. Transformation takes place the moment you're real. Yes. The moment you're real with who you are, yes. Transformation takes place. Right. But I'm here to tell you it ceased the moment you try to be a fake or a phony. Right. And so once I came president, became authentic with who I am, got married, God anointed me, God put together a 9-member team, me and this precious woman here traveled the country with a 9-member team band, taking the city by storms, taking them by storm for the glory of God. We were so excited. We were so thrilled. That's when you're authentic. That's when you're real. And I had to learn that. So, sir, I'm telling you, watching by way of television, if you're desiring to be somebody else, you're losing the person in which you are. You are an extraordinary person, sir. You're an awesome guy. Yes, I'm speaking to you. Don't turn that down. Don't get upset with me because I'm reaching out to you because I care. I've been where you're at. I know how it is to be a fake. I know how it is to be a phony. I know how it is to be the great pretender. You remember that song? I'm the great pretender. Ooh, pretending that I'm doing swell. In all reality, you're hurting inside. I've been there, sir. I'm going to pray with you before the program is over, so don't touch that dial, because I'm going to pray that God just deliver you, and you take the mask off, and you become transparent for who you are. But listen, we got to continue with the set, but don't touch that dial. Stay with me. I'm going to minister and pray with you. We have some awesome questions that have come in, but before we get to those questions, I need my lovely co-host, Birdella Hall Walker, to greet you. Give her a big warm welcome. Birdella Hall Walker.
Thank you. It's so great to be on the show called Journey to Greatness. And as you were speaking, you indicated that I'm from Chicago. You proposed to me right at Buckingham Fountain.
Yes.
And it was it was wonderful. And after 31 years of marriage, God has shown us some things that will help people, shown us how we can grow together even more by helping other people grow in a relationship, going from relationship to marriage, and understanding who they are. You indicated earlier about people being fake and not knowing who they are. I was speaking to a young gentleman just today, and we were talking about identity. And most people, the reason why they do what they do is because they haven't developed or established the identity that's theirs.
Wow, that's good.
The one that God planned, as He said, before you were even formed in your mother's womb, I knew who you were.
Wow.
So if God knew who your identity was, then we need to understand what our identity is, and who can give it to us better than the Creator.
Yes.
So tonight we're going to talk about the different questions that are coming out. I'm excited about the questions. I'm excited that people are calling in from not just Charlotte now, but they're calling in from different places. So if you're ready, I'm ready.
Well, before we move into these questions, you open up a can of worms, just so to speak. When you start talking about identity, that's very, very important.
It is.
It's very, very important. As a matter of fact, I was sharing with the congregation that we don't have a sin problem, we have an identity problem.
That's right.
We need to know who we are and whose we are. And if God be for us, everybody else might as well be.
Yes.
And if God is for you, you got to believe that God is for you.
Yes.
And you got to have that self-esteem, self-confidence in knowing that God is for you. So when we talk about identity, that is so extraordinary because Jesus never struggled with who he was, so why do we? Jesus understood who he was, but his Father validated him. His Father said before the whole world, "This is my beloved Son, whom I'm well pleased." And so he felt good, confident in who he was. And so, fathers, I want to encourage you today as we're talking about identity. I want to encourage you that's watching, you fathers that's watching by way of television. I want to encourage you to validate your kid. Speak positive into their life.
That's
Brag
right.
on them.
That's right.
Talk about them. Post them on Facebook. Post them to the social media. I'm proud of my son and my daughter. You know, I don't know if they still do it, but I remember in Florida, they had bumper stickers that used to say, my child is an honor roll student. And things like that. Brag about your kids.
right.
Boast on them.
Yes.
Don't let people tell you, that's all you do is talk about your child. Don't pay them no attention. You
right.
brag on them. You validate them. You affirm them. Because in growing up, and as a matter of fact, I was at a rally today, and a gentleman, Bishop E.W. Jackson, a graduate from Harvard, the brother was talking about how he grew up in a home, and he was a foster kid, but then later found his dad, and his dad validated him. His dad spoke into his life, and then he went on to become a Harvard graduate and became an attorney. Became an attorney, graduated. Yes, awesome, extraordinary story. And a preaching machine. I'm telling you what, that rascal was preaching today. But yes, go right ahead, sweetie.
It's really important for us to understand our identity. When we grow up in our home, I'm ministering to another person who has lost his identity because he's wanting his to live up to the expectations of his dad. And I know that I gave him the harsh truth, and I want you, audience, to understand the harsh truth about that too, is you do not live up to anybody's expectations for God.
Wow.
You
right.
don't, because what happens is, hun, is that when we're talking about living up to someone else's expectation, we're talking about their desire, their dream, their aspiration for you,
That's right.
which is not what God has given them. God caused them to birth.
Yeah.
God caused them to bring you into this world. You are that gift to that home. You're that gift to that mother and that father. However, again, as I said, before you were formed in your mother's womb, He knew who you were. He had a plan and a purpose for you. You're wonderfully and fearfully made after His image.
Yeah.
You are unique. Now, if the Word of God says, train up a child in the way that he should go, then it means that you're training up that child in the way that he should go, and not in the way that you have designed
Wow.
for him, and not the path that you're laying down. Sure, you have to protect them, feed them, take care of all their essentials.
Yes.
However, if you watch that child grow, and you're praying over them and blessing them and seeking God for their life,
That's right.
you can help guide them and direct them in the path that they need to walk in, and that helps them with that identity. It helps them with their self-esteem. They'll begin to understand who they are, that there is something greater inside of me than the two people who brought me into this world.
Wow, yeah.
Because I'm my own person.
Right, that's right.
I was even thinking about myself. I came from a large family, but even in coming from a large family, I had to understand as I looked at them that there's something more. There's something more that's going on inside of me. Something is happening that's telling me that I have to be more than what I'm seeing.
Wow.
I have to be greater than that. There's something going on here. So I'm ministering to the young man to let him know that the expectations that you are trying to live up to, you will never make it.
Wow.
Because people put you on this pedestal,
That's right.
and they say you're going to be this, and you're going to be that, and you're going to be that. But that's your dream. That's
Yeah.
your aspiration. Unless God said to you to tell that child, unless He spoke into your life, to speak into their life, and then you direct and guide them. Other than that, they have to find the path that God has set for them, and then the peace of their identity comes.
You know, that is so great. And, you know, the flip side of that is when individuals are struggling on drugs and having difficult time in life, and so often we're hard on them. We're demanding them.
Right.
And we're saying, you can do better than that. What's wrong with you? Are you an idiot? That's not how we reach them.
That's right.
The best way to reach them is to sit down and let them share where they're at. and say, if you use drugs or not use drugs, I'm going to love you whether you use them or whether you don't.
That's true.
That will just open up for them a whole new avenue to know that you will love them regardless of who they are. They know that they're wretched. They know that all the things that they have done. They know that their life is jacked up, toe up from the flow up. They messed up. They got that totally. But when you can have that unconditional love and love them in spite of, and say, yes, I wanted this for you, but this is what you have made for your life, and if you like it, I love it. I know that'll be hard, but you'll be amazed at the transformation will come to that person's life.
And that's true, because once you show them love, I know a lot of times there's this tough love because they've gone just too far in the home, but that's still love. However, something went wrong.
Yes.
My whole quest is what happened? Where did this begin? You're
Yeah.
already in it. You're already flowing in it, but where did it begin?
Wow.
And that has always been, I'm inquisitive in that area with people. You're caught up in something, you're caught in a situation where you're going through your own crises, you don't know how to handle you, but how did you get there? What started this spiral destruction in your life that's causing you to not be able to get a grip on yourself? So I like to get to the heart of the matter.
And then the key to that, I think, is asking the right questions.
Yes.
You know, so often we think and having all the answers is the key. No, asking the right questions.
That's right.
You know, I never will forget how one day that when I had messed up my life and was angry with my mom, angry with my parents, angry with the world, angry with the gentleman who shot me, and just angry about everything. I mean, I was just so angry. And I went to Mom out of frustration, and I went to Dad, and I began to talk to them. And I began to tell them off. I wasn't disrespectful, but I gave them a piece of my mind. Shame on me for doing that. Confession is good for the soul, but bad for your reputation. And as I shared with them my frustration and my anger, I will never forget that they listened to me and they said, yes, son, we understand. And they said, yes, we do understand. And we're sorry. We're really sorry. Now what's your excuse?
Wow.
And when they said that, I had nowhere to go. I had no one else to blame. I had no one to shift the responsibility on. I had no one to point the finger at. I had no one to say it's their fault. I had to look at me. And when the moment I looked at me, transformation took place, because no longer could I blame anyone.
That's
See,
good.
as long as a person can blame someone, they can shift the weight past the buck. But if you simply tell your husband that you've been arguing with, and he tell you this, and you shouldn't be doing that, and you start arguing with him and fighting with him, and you start arguing back and forth, and then y'all argue all night, and then you wake up the next morning and say, that was a good thing that we argued all night, and look what we accomplished. Never. Never. It never turns out that good. But if you listen to him or listen to her and let them argue, and then you say, I'm sorry, I do apologize, it leaves them no place to go.
That's true.
Then they have to deal with where things are. Because there's no one to fight anymore. There's no one to blame anymore. So rather than blame each other, playing the blame game, just take responsibility and someone be the bigger and say, you know what, I'm so sorry that things ended up like this.
That's true.
I'm really apologize that things are like they are. And then you can get present to what you up to and the difference that you can make then from that moment.
That's good, because forgiveness, that's right. Forgiveness is so powerful.
Yeah.
Even asking for it is like, no one really wants to be wrong.
Right.
You really don't.
Right.
But what makes you mature and causes you to grow in you as well as in the things of God is just understanding that forgiveness makes it all better.
Yes.
It
Well, listen, we got to go to these
Yes, we
answers. We
do.
got a lot of
Okay.
questions.
All
This
right.
question comes from Charlotte, North Carolina. It says, how will you know if your current relationship is worth staying in or letting go? How do you know whether the your current relationship, it just depends on what's going on in that relationship. If, of course, there is abuse there in that relationship, run, run, run. Okay. But of course, if it is just issues, and different things that misunderstanding, then you have to seek counseling. I encourage counseling. Counseling is very important because it gives you a chance to sit and talk with someone who's neutral, that you can share in front of in a safe atmosphere and share your heart, share where you're at. And then out of that, you can come to the reality of where things are. But if you're constantly at each other's throat and there's issues and problems there that's unresolved, because you can't move forward with unresolved issues in the past, then you have to sit down and work those things out, work those issues out. Now, if, of course, it's a molestation problem in the home where the children are being abused, then you run. Either or, whichever side. It could be the wife, it could be the husband. When the children are being abused, it's time to make a decision. You cannot stay in that mess. You cannot continue to stay. Don't stay for financial security. Don't stay for convenience. Don't stay for any of that. The safety of those children, the safety of them growing up and developing and becoming extraordinary in their life is more important than you staying there in that home for financial gain. So those are situations that I would encourage. But if it's something that you can work out, and most of the time it's something that you can work out. Most of the time, as long as there's not someone else in the picture, and you know what I mean, sir, and you know what I mean, ma'am. Long as there's no one in the picture, long as there's no one else that got your heart, long as there's no one pulling at you, because then you won't make a rash decision. You'll make decisions based on your emotions. But 9 times out of 10, that marriage can be restored. 9 times out of 10, you can work it out. There are some exceptions. And there are the exceptions, which I named 2, but I'm sure there's multiple reasons why that you got to get out of the relationship. But your marriage is worth fighting for. If God put you together, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. So often we want to get out of a relationship because we want to control it. We want to be in control. Sometimes God will work through your wife to get you to a place where you can learn how to submit, learn how to be responsible. God uses your spouse to help make you. That's what she or he was created for, to help develop you, to help grow you. Because they will tell you the truth when you don't want to hear the truth.
That's true.
You know, they will tell you. I mean, you turn to your wife or turn to your husband and ask them, how can I be a better me? Well, you better be ready for that. I'm telling you. You better be ready. Amen. But ask them, and you'll be amazed at the extraordinary answer that you'll get. And they might say, like my wife says, you don't need to change. You're the greatest. Birdella Hall Walker, we're back to you.
Okay. For the question, it appears it's a little vague for me.
Okay, well, let me just read it again for you.
No, I've got the answer. I've got that. I mean, what I'm saying is, it's not saying whether they're married or whether they are in are they just in a relationship? Because if they're
Answer both of them.
If they're single, okay. If they're single, then you have to look at where it's going. Did you ask yourself the question, am I willing to, do I want to marry this person? Am I wanting to marry them with their faults? Am I wanting to marry them the way they are? Is this really what I want for the rest of my life? So they have to ask that. That's one of the first questions that need to be asked when you're talking about getting married. You had better understand that marriage is supposed to be a lifetime.
That's right,
And
absolutely.
if you get into a relationship and you're planning on getting married, remember, it's forever.
That's right.
So question yourself whether or not it's worth whatever you're in. Is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth you messing up your life?
Well, a lot of times, you don't necessarily answer that question yourself. I think it would be better if you let God answer that question for you. Go to Him and ask Him, say, God, is this something that you want me to continue? Is this the relationship you ordained with me? As my wife alluded to, if you're not married and you have questions about it, then I would say put brakes on the marriage if you have reservations. If you're not married, don't get married with reservations from the beginning. Because if you go into it with reservations from the beginning, my God, you're done before you even get off the ground, okay? All right? So just to make the distinction there. But if you're in the marriage that God has ordained and there's issues, and keep in mind, all marriages go through this rocky road. There's marriages that wasn't made perfect on earth, trust me. It may have been made perfect in heaven, but you got to get heaven on earth, okay? Right. So you can work through those issues, you can strive together, you can sit down and come to the table and discuss things. And that's the most important thing, is to have a line of communication open so you can discuss. And pick the right time to, so often we can pick a bad time to discuss issues. You need to discuss issues at the appropriate time. Dinner time is perfect. Oh, that's awesome. Fix a nice dinner, he or she fix a nice dinner and say, sit down, darling. Have a seat. Would you like this? Would you like some of this? To prepare them. And then when you ask the question, say, why are we having problems in our marriage? Ask questions. That is the best way to communicate. Don't just hammer folk. So often we hammer individuals, and but we have to learn how to ask questions. Why is our marriage like this? What's wrong with our marriage? What do you think is the problem? And be ready for the answer to respond appropriately. Well, we're almost out of time, but we got to get one more question in all the way from, this is from, I hope we have time for, we're out of time. I do apologize. Listen, there's a number on your screen, 704-322-8010. If you have a question, we ask that you dial in. Operators are standing by. Hope you enjoyed Journey to Greatness broadcast. We're out of time. We're so delighted to come to you by way of television and connect with you. But I need to pray with you right now. Stretch your hands towards. I'm going to pray right now. Father, in the name of Jesus, I ask in Jesus' name that the power of God touch you, heal you, deliver you, and set you free. Restore your marriage in Jesus' name. Well, we're out of time. Wishing God's very best to you. Thank you for tuning in to Journey to Greatness broadcast. We trust we have been a blessing to you, and so we ask you to consider supporting our ministry, to partner with us so we can keep coming to you by way of television. So would you be so kind to go to our website, FWC Charlotte, and click on donate and make a generous gift so we can continue to stay on the air. Thank you so very much for supporting us, and from the bottom of our heart, we say thank you. And so there's a number on your screen. You can dial that number as well, 704-322-8010. The operator is standing by to take your call. Wish God's very best to you. Thank you again for tuning in to Journey to Greatness broadcast. Wishing God's very best to you.